Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, whatever platform you're on. And as you're joining us, or whether you end up watching the recording, we're super excited to have you on a very exciting Talk About It Tuesday about labor rights. Such a critical issue, as so many workplaces have been dealing with all kinds of additional hazards on top of the normal ways that workers need to be able to protect themselves. And so we are so honored to have members of our local CWA chapter here to share about the ways that they've been supporting workers to advocate for their rights and upcoming opportunities that they have to teach folks about how to advocate for themselves and protect themselves and make sure that they're not being exploited by people who don't have their best interests at heart. And we know that that's so important. So thank you again. We're going to get into it. My name, for anybody who doesn't know me, is Brittany Ramos de Barros. I am a proud Staten Islander and organizer, a veteran, and I am also running to fight for New York 11 in Congress as a congressional candidate here to unseat a current representative who is certainly not serving us, certainly not advocating for workers' rights the way we would like, Nicole Malliotakis. But this is about us. So let's get into it. I'm so honored to have a person who is legendary to anyone who is active in the district, in any kind of movement that is connecting to working class people. Steve Lawton, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your personal story, how you came to this work, and what you do.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you for hosting these great discussions. I think it's a great way to start a campaign for our district, and I'm really excited about the fact that workers' rights are on the agenda, and we're having this opportunity to speak about it. So, my name is Steve Lawton, and I'm president of the Communication Workers of America, Local 1102. I'm here joined today with one of our members, Hope Gilmore from CWA 1102, who currently works at Easy Pass, and she'll talk a little bit about and introduce herself and talk a little bit about her campaign. But I started out with the union about 25 years ago. Actually, even a little bit more than that. I was 19 years old, and I had privilege to be able to fall into a good job, which a lot of folks don't get that opportunity. And I was able to go right from high school, and I was able to get a job at New York Telephone. At the time, it was called NYNEX. So being an installer of phone equipment. So at that point in time, I didn't know much about the union or have any political awakenings or anything like that. I was just a kid, working class kid who fell into a pretty decent job, and I knew that there was a union. And back then that was like important. You got a union job, you thought you were good. And shortly after I got the job at NYNEX, a couple of years in, there was a couple of small time strikes. We have a strong tradition of striking in the CWA, especially against what we used to call Ma Bell, or the telephone company. And I could recall one of the first things that I was asked to do was to help out during a picket, during a strike, and one of the union leaders had come up to me and said, "Hey, would you, like help us take a shift on the picket line?" And I did. And that was one of my first experiences. The second experience I'd like to highlight in my experience as a union leader is I was young and maybe not really well thought out, but I certainly knew the difference between workers being treated properly, and I didn't like bullies, and I didn't like the way that people with positions of power are able to use those positions of power to get what they want from them and make them feel like crap. So I had an instinct to fight those types of bosses that were treated people that way. I naturally rejected that as a thing. So between my natural reaction to not really great bosses and union leaders before me that got me involved in the strike duties, I became very active in the union back when I was about 25 years old. So since then, I have held many elected positions in Local 1102. I've really focused the last 10 years working with a group of workers at a call center here on Staten Island who currently work for our Easy Pass system. And that experience was a different experience than my traditional experience in the union. in this case, I got to work with a group of Staten Island workers who were just starting to have a union at their workplace, which was different than my experience. And they were primarily women of color and Latina women and other and even and a big group of women from and workers from the Sri Lankan community. So there was a much more broader constituency looking to fight for their rights at Easy Pass. And I had gotten involved in that campaign about 10 years ago. And it was a seriously violent campaign in terms of management purposely firing people and doing things that really tried to influence the workers' decision whether or not to have a union or not. That experience of working with that group of working class individuals, trying to have a union, having to deal with corporate America in the most ugliest form, getting involved in their right to have rights at the workplace, really woke my mind up around, both my own privilege, but also what the union focus should be and where it should be. So, I still represent 50% of our local still works with Verizon and are the telecom people, and that's a set of work that we do on a daily basis. And then the other 50% are the workers at Easy Pass that are currently rising up in power after 10 years of a long, long battle and struggle. And that's how I ended up becoming the president of the local and working with all these different groups of workers and gaining that worldview greater than myself, sitting in the homes of working class people along our North Shore corridor, listening to them talk about how hard it was for them to struggle while working more than 40 hours and 40 plus hours a week, really inspired me to continue this work. So that's my introduction. I'd like to give some time over to some of our folks. I could see Carmen also joined us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Steve. That's a powerful journey. And I'm super excited to hear next. Thank you for joining us, Carmen. We're super excited to have you as well as Hope. And so we're just doing a round of introductions. Hope, my understanding is that you have been a fierce fighter and leader in the campaign that Steve is talking about. So tell us a little bit about you, kind of how you got involved in this work. Take your time. We want to spend this time to really get to know each other as folks fighting for each other and fighting for working class people in the district. So yeah, take it away.
Hi, so my name is Hope Gilmore, and I started with Easy Pass about 3 years ago. During during my time at Easy Pass when I first started, I wasn't thrilled about the union. But then we had COVID, and I saw how the company was not forthcoming with information. They weren't helpful at all. They didn't care about us, and it was blatant. Like there was a possible case of the virus during the height of the pandemic in the walk-in center. I am sorry, I'm dealing with this. Yeah.
We love
Um,
ones. We train them up early in the movement, so no apologies needed.
so, in the beginning, we had a possible case of corona in the call center, in the walk-in center, which is downstairs, which everyone can go there, everyone can come up from there. It wasn't like it was a secluded area where only like two people worked.
Wow.
Everyone had access to that area. Not many people went, but we had access, and they had access to ours. So we had a union call, and Steve was like, I will be there in the morning to inform you of your rights. You don't have to go in that building if you don't feel safe. That's a right that you have with OSHA. And I was like, oh, what are these rights? I was like, I wonder if he's really going to be there. And my child was in the daycare next door. So I dropped him off next door, as I do before I go to work. And I'm like, if he's really here, I'm going to listen to him and I'm going to hear him out. And it was raining that day and everything. And I stood there, and Steve and other members of the union were telling us that they shut down the walking center. Like they talked to management and they were like, this is not a safe environment. You can't have these people here. And from that point on, I was sold. I was like, whatever you guys want, I'm here. So
Wow.
I've been with a union since that point, and I stood there. I helped people get their rights about things because some people were like, "Who's this person standing outside? I've never seen him." So I was like, "Hey, you know me. I'm from your job. Like we sit next to each other. This is what's going on." And we had weekly meetings, daily even if needed, because there were more cases day by day. Um, Finally, we got work from home, which is a much safer environment for all of us. And we're still fighting this company over certain things, but that was definitely a big win. And that was definitely how I figured out what a union was, because I'm not from a union family, definitely. We never talk about it anyway. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have union jobs, but we never talk about it. So that's been my experience, and it's been very helpful. And my child is happy because we're home and I'm with him all the time. So this has been amazing. And honestly, I haven't been back to that like in the building besides once to pick up my equipment since about March 17th of last year.
Wow, that's so powerful. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. And good for you for standing up for yourself and, for the union for having your back. That's super powerful. I legitimately I'm trying not to be too sappy, but for anyone who doesn't know, I was in the military and I've been in a lot of positions where as an officer, I was kind of almost in a middle management position where you're responsible for people, right? And to like get a certain job done. And there's a lot of pressure on you to kind of prioritize that over really caring for your people. And I've seen the way a lot of otherwise well-intended kind of bosses will buckle under that pressure that kind of comes down from the top. And I grew up with a lot of union propaganda too, like anti-union propaganda, right? Like the union just takes your money, blah, 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 right? Like I grew up in a very conservative family and just didn't, learn better either until I met folks like Steve and many others in the Working Families Party and others who are connected to labor movement. And so I know what it feels like too to kind of be in that position where you feel alone and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just this one person up against this whole machine and I can't afford to lose my job. I can't afford, but it's like, how lonely that can feel. So it's super moving and powerful to hear a story like that of people really coming together and having your back so that you're not alone in a situation. Thank you for sharing. Carmen, welcome.
I'm sorry, I'm not really feeling too good today.
Oh,
One of
that's
those days.
okay. Thank you for joining us. I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would love for you to just take a couple minutes to share your story, introduce yourself. We'd love to hear about kind of how you got involved in the work and why this work is important to you.
So I'm Carmen. I'm currently the business agent for EasyPass. As Steve would put it, the first Afro-Latina business agent on the executive board.
Okay, okay.
Um, I also have kids. I have children. My son's actually in the military right now. He's in the Marines. Um, my entire family union, bus drivers, teachers. Um, my husband's in the union. He's a chef. It's what all throughout my family. And so it was kind of a no-brainer when he's actually, I can't even say that because one of our vice president and business agent actually came to my doorstep because my sister worked at EasyPass and they came to try to get her to get into the union. So then when I started working at EasyPass, they came back and then eventually it was just like, you know what, we grew up around this. This is something we do on a regular. We need to just get involved, especially seeing the dynamic that goes on at EasyPass. I've been there for about 10 years now. So I've seen things change drastically. And especially with the pandemic, I've seen how fast they kind of were quick to kind of get rid of us. And the union stepped in and it was like we didn't know whether we were going to have a job the next day or the next week or the next month. But the union stepped in and it was like we didn't give up. So we are working from home, which has never been done. So that is a big win for us. I like doing this. I like helping people. I'll give the person straight off my back if I had to. I don't do it for rewards. I do it just because this is something that makes me feel good, and to see other people being able to actually benefit or say, okay, the union did something good for me. They helped me. I like having a union. That's the reward for me, not the. So, this is just. It's been a hard battle with Conduit. We're still fighting them every day. Like, I just wish it would be a little bit easier at times, and they would be more forthcoming and willing to work with us. Like, we're not trying to hurt you. We're just trying to do what's best for the workers and actually help you. Because if we strive, you strive. But that's not how it's seen. But Steve just told us we got to just keep going and continue, and not give up. And that's what we're doing at this point. But this is just something I'll most likely probably continue doing until my days at Easy Pass are over. And probably even after Easy Pass, I'll continue to do this. So that's just a little about me. And my kids actually like it. My 9-year-old actually likes to do things with me. So he likes going to rallies, and he likes doing these things with me because, so I kind of try to show them, like, you're helping people, and this is rewarding. This is the way to feel rewarded, not compensated. But the selflessness.
Wow.
That's just it. That's me in a nutshell.
Wow, that's super powerful. Congratulations on the wins you all have already had. And it's very inspiring, and just so much solidarity as you continue to advocate for people. And, I also want to back it up. It's interesting that we have folks on the call, on the live stream from all different backgrounds, right? Some folks who grew up in union families, some people who didn't, right? Coming from all different places. And so, for anyone out there who's listening, who's never experienced a union, or maybe has, but kind of like you, Hope, right? Like, was like, I don't know about this, I'm wondering if, maybe Steve, you could kick us off, and then whoever else wants to jump in, break it down for folks. What at its most basic definition is a union, and what is the power of a union? Why do we think that everyone deserves to have a union if they want one? You're muted. You're muted, Steve.
Hope, would you like to take that question?
Or Hope, yeah.
Of course. I mean, why would anyone not want a union? It's helpful. It's not something that harms you. There's no way to lose with it. It's collective bargaining. You have a support system. Everyone needs a support system. Just like you need a support system to raise a child, you need a support system at your job too. It's very scary having to talk to management. If you have to talk to them about anything that could lead to discipline, that could lead to them not liking you in some way because you're giving them some feedback that they do not like. It's helpful to have someone, a group of people behind you. Everyone deserves support, no matter what it's for, as long as it's healthy. And also, a union is solidarity. A union is collective bargaining. A union is love. It's family. It's it's everything good about the world, honestly.
That's a very interesting reflection, because CWA is an especially really, really does focus on being as democratic as we possibly can be, and also being adamantly anti-racist and pro solidarity, right? And one of the things that the experience of the union organizing can bring to people is their empowerment on the workshop floor, but it also could bring the true sense of solidarity to people, right? What's missing in our society, the ability to see each other, whether it's a class consciousness, or whether it's just like, hey, we work together and we have more power together than we do separated. Just that realization in your daily life really brings that what Hope is saying is like, the union is love. The union is, this concept of what the world needs. Yeah, it's because you're bringing people together at the place where it's most stressful, and breaking through some of those things that divide us, because We all are in it. And when I was one of the earliest influences of me, Hope, and you may not know this, is that I was super emotional and inspired at times when I was in the midst of a union battle. And when we would have, in some cases, 30,000 workers in New York City coming together for a big rally, and we were all holding hands and singing songs. And it doesn't, like there's just this sort of solidarity and power that's involved in that moment that you look around and go, this is the answer to the problems. There's no division here. So just wanted to bring that point up. So thank you for that reflection.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about you, Carmen? Anything to add about kind of if you were talking to a person who didn't really know about unions, or maybe they had negative assumptions, kind of how would you explain to them what a union is and how it benefits them?
Well, first you got to kind of find out why they feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, like give me reasons why you felt that way, and kind of ask them to explain it. Because people don't, they just go based on what they hear.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I would kind of just let them know, like a union, it's not somebody who just wants your money. It's a group of people collectively working together for better working conditions, better working environment. Like Hope said, we're kind of like one big family. And, family sticks together. So this is something that you would get into to join this family. You would stick with us. Like, we're not going to direct you in a direction that's going to harm you. We're trying to push you in a direction that's going to not only benefit you, but something you can prosper from later on as well down the line. So it's just to, you have to kind of talk to them first and figure out, like, like what's your gripe? And sometimes it's really nothing. They really don't have a problem. They just are going based on what they hear and really are uninformed. So then that would be my job to inform them about what a union and what potentially can happen without a union, and what is the benefits of having one, and what great things would come out of having a union in your workplace.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like when, even just thinking about the kind of anti-union propaganda I heard growing up, like one of those things you already mentioned is like, oh, they just take your money and, you want to why would you want to be giving someone your money, right? But like, there's a structure, right? So I'm curious for folks who don't know a lot about how unions are structured, kind of tell us a little bit about like, what do those dollars really help buy you in a way, right? Like it's an investment. And, I'll just plant the seed that the bosses, right, as we say, there's this thing where we all get pitted against each other, right? Even like, oh, white collar versus blue collar. But at the end of the day, if someone else is paying you wages in exchange for your labor, you are working class, right? And that doesn't mean that we all don't still have different situations. But at the end of the day, we're all working class people who ultimately some boss, right? We report to some boss and they have power over our job, right? Over those decisions that get made and over our safety and our family's well-being. And they have a structure to protect them and to make decisions, right? And so I think sometimes just speaking to why does that formal structure matter as opposed to workers just kind of informally organizing. So yeah, Steve, tell us a little bit about that.
So, there's the issue with that is that there's many ways that unions could be structured, and some are bigger and some are smaller, and there's a lot of differences between them. What we tend to want to, what our philosophy is, it's about empowerment, about collective empowerment, and it's about bringing the membership into the work that we do. So when we look at things like dues or advantage, why should you join the union? I wouldn't argue it as what are you getting from it. I would articulate it as when we pool our resources, we pool our money, we create our organization. When we protest together, when we vote together, when we do all these different parts of our life together, we have more power than we are individually. And dues is a reflection. It's actually, in my opinion, a commitment to each other, because you're creating an organization with those dues. The dues is just the money which creates the organization and the structures that are necessary for workers to have their own independent, democratic organization live on the shop floor that is to the boss, and it's theirs. And that's the most important thing that people have to understand is it's not about what are you getting out of the union, is the union getting you out of trouble or any of those other qualities. It's about really understanding that together we have power. If we take a little bit of our checks and we come together, we create. The bosses have the same organizations, right? They create the Chamber of Commerce's, all the manufacturing associations, right? It's endless. The bosses are smart enough to know that they need to collectively pool their resources together to change laws that benefit them. And working people need to understand that too.
Absolutely. So well said. Um, Awesome. Okay. So you all are, I've seen you doing amazing work around the community. I know that the first time I learned about CWA 1102 was when you all were doing a workshop at the Sustainable SI, kind of all day retreat that we had, which was amazing. I learned so much from that. And you all continue to do amazing work for anybody, right? Anybody, any worker in the community, even if they're not part of your union or part of any union, they can attend. And you have a Know Your Rights training coming up, right, for workers. Tell us a little bit about that and share with us some examples of things that workers might be facing right now that they might not realize that they have rights around without the kind of support network that Hope and others have mentioned.
Yeah, so the CWA 1102, the local that we come from, we have going back to your experience with Sustainable Staten Island, we have a general philosophy about building strong coalitions with community and within the working class community, and to lend our power and our resources to the greater community because we understand that we can't isolate ourselves. Our workers won't win. These folks that are on this call with me, Carmen and Hope, they're experiencing like what it's like to try to build power at the beginning of this equation. Unlike my experience where I came into a strong union, and they're the ones that are seeing how hard it is to actually win at the bargaining table against a major corporation. But they're also the members of our community that so badly need that sort of change in our economy, right? They're the ones being left out of our economy in a very major way. So we understand that we cannot isolate ourselves. These folks can't win a better contract by themselves isolated. So what we're doing is we're taking our experiences that we learned from our fight against COVID and the corporations that we are and the lessons that we've learned in that battle, and we're bringing them to the community with the hopes that we're able to help empower community workers in our community to decide to organize, quite frankly. And the Know Your Rights training, which is connected to COVID, is really timed to meet the needs of workers that are being pushed back to work or maybe have been at work. During COVID, what we understood, what we came to understand in our own experience at EasyPass, but also with the other communities members we were dealing with at the time, is that employers didn't know how to handle the COVID spread. Their instinct was to cut their own liabilities in the front end of this. They literally left the working class out there for weeks without instruction, without information, without proper PPE, and without any way to do it. And at this point, workers had a traumatic experience. It's not just within my local. I mean, I've talked to workers throughout Staten Island at some very reputable organizations on Staten Island, quite frankly, that were put in very precarious, unsafe scenarios in the beginning of COVID. And partly it was because they didn't understand their rights. So we're taking what we learned and we're going to bring it out to the community in this very interactive 2-hour session where we're going to teach the students to, identify the hazards from COVID, kind of equate them in a popular education method to the existing laws. So they're going to learn the laws and apply it to their real life experience in this training. And then they're going to hopefully come to the understanding at the end that the best way of dealing with it is collectively rather than individually. That's a key piece around safety rights in America. People don't realize this. The boss retaliates. There's no doubt about that. Like, let's not even hide the fact that there's bad bosses out there, right? But our laws are designed to protect people when they act collectively in the workplace. More, there's laws that protect you from discrimination as an individual as well, but the labor laws, we know it protects protected concerted activities that are concerted, especially under the National Labor Relations Act and OSHA. So things like when it comes to safety, which is the most protected collective activity you could have, workers have enormous power to demand safety in the workplace. We see it a little bit with the UFT right now, with the push back to schools, right? People are like, oh, the teachers, but no, they are enacting the principles of safety and their rights to say, I'm not returning unless I have guarantees by my employer that this is a safe environment. Every single worker in America has that right, not just the UFT teachers. And to build on that, when workers come together and collectively out in the open demand those rights, they're the most protected against retaliation. Not saying that the boss won't try. I could tell you that the likelihood is, for your own safety, your own empowerment, the likelihood of you being out in the open with your coworkers on an unsafe scenario is a very powerful position for you to be in. And that's why we're there to support workers that get to that conflict. And then we will make sure that they're helped through that process if they have a boss that tries something like that, so they know which agency they need to put the report in, where they need to put the charges in. We'll even help them go on strike, right to strike. They don't need a union to go on strike. And if there's no information, no PPE, no social distancing, very little bit of information, they may have the right to decide to take action. So that's what the training is designed to do. And hopefully people in the community see this and sign up for it, because it's 2 hours. It's not like a boring lecture. It really is about a conversation around what they're seeing out there, and there's resources at the end of the training to help them organize.
That's amazing. We dropped the link for anyone who's watching in the comments. For anyone who joins us later, if you're not able to find it, of course, reach out to or follow CWA 1102 on social media. They're promoting it. We will continue to share the information about the Know Your Rights training on our campaign page if you're already following us. So April 17th, I have that right. Yes, April 17th, 2 p.m. Eastern. It is an investment in that kind of solidarity and relationship building, right? I know it's hard with kids and work and all the obligations many of us are juggling, especially those of us who probably need it the most, right? But it is that kind of upfront investment in building a support network if you don't already have a union that can help you and can have your back, and support you to build that support network wherever you are too. So it's so important, especially because we are seeing, these rights that Steve is talking about. We're seeing the rights that we see most under attack right now are voting rights and labor rights. And that's because that's where people power is, right? Those are two of the places where the working class can most powerfully come together in solidarity and flex, right? Flex our power no matter how poor we are, no matter how, whatever's going on in our lives. And so there is a reason that in the aftermath of these elections and these uprisings this summer that we are seeing those two categories of rights be particularly under attack. Thankfully, we are seeing leaders also come back and fight for those things, like our, union leaders like CWA, but also, in acts like the PRO Act. The PRO Act was an act. We're not gonna get too deep into that right now, but that is legislation that is cycling through Congress right now that has the potential to shore up and protect those labor rights. So that's why it's so important that we have leaders who are willing to support that. Anyway, I'm curious, what other things, Carmen, Hope, what else, if we're thinking on the topic of labor rights, what else do you think is really important for people to know right now? Whatever it is, I just want to hear from you all, because you are on the front lines of this struggle, and kind of hearing from workers and what they're struggling with on a day-to-day. So what would you want to share with people? Whatever that may be, whatever feels important.
Just know, like Steve said, know your rights. Know you have rights as a worker, and you have a problem. You should not be afraid to go or reluctant to go to management. Mm-hmm. After all, they're management, but you're the employer. You're the employee. You're the one that it's just in their business to strive and to become gain financially. So you should be able to voice your opinion and know, like, I have a problem. I'm gonna go to management. Like, don't sit back and wait. It's just, you need to just speak up. And if there is a union in place, you need, to know who to go to, who the person is you need to speak to. And I say document everything, because it always becomes your word against theirs. So I'm quick to just write everything down. I tell them pen and paper, and I'll, tell them, slow down. Let me write what you said. So it doesn't turn into a he said, she said. It's everything's on paper. They can't deny they said it because it's on paper. That's just what I say. Don't take, it's your job, your income. Take it in. Make sure you do by all means necessary, protect your job. And don't be afraid to speak up. Closed mouth. I say closed mouths don't get fed.
That's so good. Yeah, document. That's such good advice. I've seen that. I've seen, everywhere from the military to other corporations. I've seen that it can be bullying, right? It's like people want to make you feel like you don't have options. They want to tell you, oh, you're alone, right? So documenting, speaking up, collective bargaining, all of these things are ways that we can stand up for ourselves. Thank you, Carmen. That's all really good, concrete advice.
You're welcome.
Hope, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Never ever do anything alone. Don't walk in a management's office by yourself. Don't. It's not helpful for you, because then, like Carmen said, it becomes their word against your word. You have no witness. And if you do end up in a situation where you are with management by themselves, I mean, a lot of times I know they won't agree to signing things, but just simply say, wait, hold on, can I write that down? Would you mind signing the statement that you just made? They tend to be careful about what they say then. And they start thinking about what's legal to say to you and what's not legal to say to you.
Yeah.
And to do to you as well. So documentation is very important. Even if you are in a situation where you are alone, can I get a moment? Can I just write that down for my records? For you can sign this if you want. And they things tend to slow down then. Like, oh wait, hold on, let me think about this. Also, it's very important to know your power, not just your rights, but what's your worth to this company. Like, if you and all those like you stopped work today, could this company survive? Know that. Live in that. Live in your power. Know what you are, who you are, and get others like you to stand with you.
Ooh, chills. Absolutely. I'm fired up. I'm ready to organize. Because that's what you're talking about, right? Is organizing. I think sometimes it can be intimidating, right? People are like, well, I don't know where to start. It can literally be as simple as that, as, hey, we're all experiencing this problem, right? We're all being put in this situation that doesn't seem right. Let's band together and let's address this with management together, right? And for folks who might need to learn more other than your training, right? We want everyone to go to their know your rights training. But outside of that, if people need information about their legal, hey, is this legal? Is this not? Or kind of support if they don't have a union, are there resources that y'all recommend, or are there places that they can reach out to for support?
Yeah, I mean, I would advise people to really get to know the National Labor Relations Act, which is your basic rights, which you can go right to the National Labor Relations Board. You can go to their website and you could figure out whether or not, your situation fits the rights that are prescribed by the act. It's pretty easily accessible, and it's a right that most workers have that are not classified as management, and where there are more than one worker, you're able to exercise those rights. There's OSHA, there's New York State, there's New York City's Office for Human Rights. There are plenty of resources within your reach here in New York City, but you could always call CWA Local 1102 at 718-984-1102. and we'd be happy to work with anybody. We have given advice to workers in our community before and help them through situations, even though they didn't join our union. We're looking to build long-term relationships. We're not like, hey, join our union now, but if you want help and support and you want consistency, you could touch base with us and we'll work with you. And maybe one day when you're ready, you'll organize into your own union, but part of our local.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Steve, tell us that number one more time so we'll put it in the comments for people. 718
984 1102.
02. Okay, got it. We put that in the comments for folks to reference for the future. We are so grateful for the people who join us live. And also as working people, we know we have a lot of folks who will watch this later, want to make sure they have access to that information. Thank you. We only have a few more minutes, so I just want to express so much gratitude to you all at CWA 1102 for the work that you have been doing in the community in solidarity with workers, especially during this critical time during COVID, where a lot of people would have otherwise been put in really dangerous situations. Steve, Hope, Carmen, you gave great advice. Thank you. Everyone, make sure to sign up for that Know Your Rights training. If you can't tune in for that one at that time, follow them on social media. Make sure, because there will be more opportunities. They are always doing stuff in the community, like I've mentioned. And so, it is just a good resource. Make sure to share this on your social media, share it with your networks. Outside of those of you, maybe you're watching and you don't need to know this, but other people who you might never know might need to know this information. So make sure to share it. And then I just want to give a go around for any last words, any last things that you all want to share, shout outs, whatever it is, organizations you want to shout out that people should also check out. So let's go around. Carmen, sorry to put you on the spot, but if you don't mind, you can kick us off.
No, I'm grateful for the union we have at this present moment. Even though sometimes it feels like we go 10 steps forward and then we get kicked 20 steps back.
Yeah.
We still, they're still behind us and they continue to push us. And they just let us know, it's a struggle, but they're behind us the entire way. So, I'm just grateful for that we didn't have to experience as much as everybody else did during this pandemic. They really rallied behind us and taught us that we can do things that we've never done before. So I'm grateful for that right now at this point.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. That's super powerful. And it also, to me, it also just reminds me of this district in general, is like how often we're told about ourselves. We're told the limitations of what's possible here. And yet, what I know is that there are so many people, there are so many more people here who have been made to feel small, who have, felt disenfranchised or betrayed by either party, right, or by past leadership, and are hungry for, organizing and solidarity and people who will really fight for them. And that's, for us, for me, that's what this, as an organizer, that's what this campaign is about, is first and foremost building working class power in a place where we've been told everything about what we can't do, right? And believing in what's possible when we come together. Okay, Hope, any last things you want to leave us with?
Yes. I want to tell anyone who's watching and will see this, you matter. And if you are working in an environment and you feel that they are treating you like you don't matter, then you definitely should join us on April 17th at 2 p.m. so we can teach you and give you information on how to change that dynamic. Also, when I first started calling out, like a year ago, I didn't call out under any union thing or what. I called out and said, due to a lack of safe and clean environment, as per OSHA. So this is not just about being in a union shop or not a union shop. It's about just everyone's rights as a worker. And I want to say thank you for having me. And thank you for all of the great work that this union has done and that I am hoping that you get to do in this community because you're just so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's really our privilege to be able to be here with you. So thank you. And just powerful. I'm like so fired up listening to you, especially Carmen and Hope. Man, I'm just like, I hope everybody else is feeling that too. That reminder that we're so often made to feel so small and so insignificant, and each and every one of us is in a position that matters. Otherwise it wouldn't exist, right? And okay, last but certainly not least, Steve, anything you want to leave folks with?
I just want to say how wonderful the representation from CWA 1102, the two women that have joined us here, Carmen and Hope. These are two strong union leaders. Carmen has been with us for many years and has negotiated 2 contracts. And like she said, has been elected up to our executive board. Hope is a new activist, as you could see, is a powerful voice. But this is proof that the labor movement, the future of the labor movement, is in the women's hands, right? It's in the women's hands, and that it has to be led by the people who are that have the most to win, and not those that have already, like me, who have already had my privilege. So I am looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to making that happen and seeing that vision happen, where these great women take leadership and take our union one day to ever greater heights and the future. And I look forward to your candidacy, Brittany. I mean, I think this is a great start. I hope that whatever happens and whoever gets into this race, that they also take into consideration the labor movement of Staten Island, who they actually are, and listen to the voices of the working class people here. So thank you for having this, and we really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That means so much. I'm excited to fight for our people together. That's what this is really about, regardless of what happens with politics. I am, I would be remiss if I didn't say a lot of y'all heard, we were doing this big push for our first 6 weeks, our first quarter. Y'all heard about our first deadline on the campaign, and just a little, I know that the way that these things work is confusing sometimes. So that was our deadline for fundraising. Our official report gets filed on the 15th. So there will be a little bit of lag time, and in the next couple weeks, you'll hear those final official numbers from us. So, don't think we forgot about you. We will, don't worry. And we're going to have a big celebration for everybody who participated in helping to get Team Brittany kind of through this first, this first big benchmark, this first big push, because we know that ultimately at the end of the day, what we are talking about is building working class power, right? Regardless of what happens with the election, that's what this campaign is about. We're so excited to do that. If you're able to sign up as a volunteer, please do so on our website. Sign up for our social media to follow us and find out opportunities to plug in. Tip in. This is a grassroots campaign. We had a little teaser. We had record-breaking numbers of individual contributions, because this is truly a grassroots effort. It's small donations from a lot of people who are invested in this, who are tired of being told we have to settle just because we're here in Staten Island and just because we're here in South Brooklyn, and we refuse to settle. So check us out. Thank you to our guests again for taking the time, especially in these busy times with family and everything that's going on. We appreciate it so much. And we'll see you in the fight. We'll see you in the streets. Hopefully we'll see you at the Know Your Rights training. Don't forget to sign up and share the information about that, and share that CWA number as well if you know anyone who needs support and who is being bullied in their workplace. With that, much love, everyone, and we'll see you around the way.